The bookstore was dying. Everyone knew it. The sign above the door read Morrison's Books, Est, 1978. 47 years. Almost half a century. But now, the shelves were half empty. The customers were few. And time was running out. Arthur Morrison was 83 years old. He had owned this bookstore since he was 36. Before the internet. Before e-readers. Before Amazon. Back when bookstores were gathering places. Community centers. Sacred spaces for people who loved words. But the world had changed. People bought books online now. Cheaper. Faster. Delivered to their doors. They did not need stores like Arthur's anymore. They did not need the smell of old paper. The creak of wooden floors. The quiet intimacy of browsing real shelves. Or so they thought. Arthur knew the bookstore would close soon. Maybe 6 months. Maybe less. The rent kept increasing. The customers kept decreasing. The numbers did not work anymore. His children wanted him to retire. Sell the building. Move into a senior community. Enjoy his remaining years. But Arthur could not let go. Because this bookstore was not just a business. It was Claire, his wife. She had died 5 years ago. Pancreatic cancer. 61 years of marriage. Gone in 6 months. And without Claire, the bookstore felt like the last place she still existed. They had run it together. For 47 years, Claire had been the heart of the store. She knew every customer by name. Remembered their reading preferences. Made recommendations that changed lives. She would say, books are not just entertainment. They are companions, teachers, friends. We do not sell books. We connect people with the stories they need. After Claire died, Arthur tried to continue. But he was just one person. Old, tired. The store felt empty without her voice. Without her laughter. Without her presence. Customers noticed. They stopped coming as often. The store became a sad place. A memorial, not a living business. One rainy afternoon in November, a young woman walked in. Arthur looked up from his desk. She was maybe 30 years old. Professional clothes. Expensive coat. She looked lost. Not physically. Emotionally. Can I help you? Arthur asked. The woman shook her head. Just browsing. But she did not browse. She just stood there, in the middle of the store, looking around, as if seeing something she had forgotten existed. Arthur watched her, recognized the expression. He had seen it before. Years ago, on other faces. People who wandered into bookstores not for a specific book, but for refuge, for peace, for something they could not name but desperately needed. The woman finally spoke. I used to love bookstores. When I was a kid, my mom would take me every Saturday. I would spend hours just looking, smelling the books, feeling the pages. It felt magical. What changed? Arthur asked gently. Life, the woman said. College, career, climbing the corporate ladder. I stopped having time for things like browsing bookstores. Now I download everything, read on my tablet. Efficient, convenient. But I realized yesterday that I cannot remember the last time I actually held a physical book. Cannot remember the last time I felt that magic. Arthur nodded. You are not alone. That is why places like this are disappearing. The woman looked around. How long have you been here? 47 years. My wife and I opened this store in 1978. She died 5 years ago. Now it is just me. And I am losing it. The store will close soon. Cannot compete anymore. The woman looked sad. I am sorry. That must be hard. It is, Arthur admitted. But it is time. Everything ends eventually. The woman wandered the aisles. Ran her fingers along the spines. Pulled out random books. Opened them. And then Arthur noticed something. Every time she opened a book, she looked surprised. Confused. Is something wrong? Arthur asked. There is something written inside this book, the woman said. Handwritten. In the margins. Arthur felt his heart skip. Oh, yes. That happens sometimes. Used books. Previous owners write in them. But the woman opened another book. And another. This one too. And this one. They all have handwriting. Different books. different genres, but the same handwriting. She brought 3 books to Arthur. Look, these are completely different. A mystery, a romance, a biography, but they all have notes in the margins. And they all look like the same person wrote them. Arthur took the books, looked at the familiar handwriting. His eyes filled with tears. That is my wife's writing. Claire, she used to write notes in the books. Before we sold them, little messages, thoughts, reactions. She believed books should be conversations between the author and the reader. So she would start the conversation, leave little notes for whoever bought the book next. The woman stared at him. She did that for every book? Arthur nodded. For 47 years, thousands of books, maybe tens of thousands. She would read a book, write little notes, then put it on the shelf. She never told customers. She wanted it to be a surprise. A gift, something to make people feel less alone. That is beautiful, the woman whispered. Yes, Arthur said. It was. She was. The woman looked at the books in her hands, like she was holding something sacred. Can I buy these? Of course. The woman paid, but before she left, she turned back. Can I come back tomorrow? Arthur smiled. We are open every day. 10 to 6. For now. After she left, Arthur sat alone in the bookstore, holding one of Claire's books, reading her notes in the margins, missing her, loving her, and wondering if anyone would remember, after the store closed, that something beautiful had existed here. The woman came back the next day, and the day after that, and the day after that. Her name was Emma. She was 32, a corporate lawyer, 6-figure salary, corner office, everything she was supposed to want. But she was miserable. I hate my job, she told Arthur on her 3rd visit. I work 80 hours a week. I have no life, no friends, no hobbies, just work, and billable hours, and performance reviews. I cannot remember the last time I did something that mattered. What brought you to my store? Arthur asked. I was walking home from work, in the rain, and I had this thought. What am I doing? What is the point? I am 32 years old and I am already exhausted, already burned out. And then I saw your store. The light in the window, the books, and I just walked in, like I used to when I was a kid. And now you keep coming back, Arthur observed. Emma nodded. Because your wife's notes. They are amazing. Look at this. She pulled out a book. A novel by Toni Morrison. In the margin, Claire had written, "This chapter changed how I see forgiveness. Some wounds do not heal, but they can transform into wisdom. And that is enough." Emma continued. I read that and I started crying. Right there on the subway. Because I have been holding on to so much anger. At my parents. At my ex. At my career choices. And your wife's words made me realize I do not have to heal everything. I just have to transform it into something useful, something wise. Arthur felt tears in his eyes. That sounds like Claire. She had a gift for seeing through to the heart of things. Over the following weeks, Emma became a regular. She would come after work, spend hours browsing, looking for Claire's notes, reading them like treasure hunts. Sometimes she would read passages aloud to Arthur, and they would talk about books, about life, about meaning. Emma started bringing friends, colleagues who were also burned out, also searching. She would say, "You have to see this place. It is like therapy, but with books." And this old man whose wife left secret notes everywhere. The store got busier. Not much, but noticeably. Young professionals, coming in after work, looking for Claire's notes, looking for something real in a digital world, looking for human connection. One evening, Emma asked Arthur, "How many books did your wife write in?" Arthur thought, "We have had maybe 10,000 books through here over the years. She probably wrote in half. So 5,000, maybe more. And you never took them out? Never removed her notes?" Arthur shook his head. "Why would I? They are her legacy, her voice. As long as those books exist, she still exists. Still speaks, still teaches. But what happens when the store closes?" Emma asked. Arthur sighed. "I do not know. I will try to keep some. But most will go to a liquidator. Sold in bulk, scattered. Claire's notes will disappear, like she was never here. Emma looked devastated. That cannot happen. Those notes are art. They are history. They are love letters to strangers. We have to save them. How? Arthur asked. I cannot afford to keep the store open. The rent is too high. The customers too few. Then we make more customers, Emma said. We tell people about Claire's notes. About what makes this store special. About what they will lose if it closes. Emma started a social media campaign. She posted photos of Claire's notes. With Arthur's permission, shared them online. Hashtag secret notes from Claire. Hashtag the last bookstore. Hashtag save Morrison's books. The posts went viral. People loved the idea of a woman who spent 47 years leaving secret notes in books for strangers. People loved the romance, the mystery, the human connection in an increasingly digital world. News outlets picked it up. Local TV, then national. Morrison's Books. The bookstore where every book contains a love letter from a stranger. People started coming, from across the city, across the state, to find Claire's notes, to be part of the story. Arthur was overwhelmed. I do not understand. Why do people care so much? Emma smiled. Because we are all lonely. We are all looking for connection. Your wife understood that. She reached out, across time, across death, to tell strangers they are not alone. That is powerful. That is what people are desperate for. But Arthur felt conflicted. This feels wrong. Using Claire's memory to save the store. She would not have wanted publicity. She wanted her notes to be private, personal, between reader and book. Emma understood, but she also knew. Your wife wanted people to feel less alone. Now thousands of people are finding her notes, being touched by her words, feeling connected. Is not that what she wanted? Arthur had to admit, yes, that is exactly what she wanted. The store was saved. The viral campaign brought customers, donations, support. Arthur could pay his rent, hire help. Emma quit her law job, became the store's manager. She was happier than she had been in years. Surrounded by books, by Claire's notes, by purpose. But Arthur worried. What happens when the novelty wears off? When people stop coming to find Claire's notes? What happens when there are no more notes to find? Emma had a plan. We create an archive. We photograph every note. Create a website. A book. We preserve Claire's legacy. So even after all the physical books are sold, her words remain. Arthur liked that. A book about Claire's notes. Yes, she would have loved that. They started the project, going through every book in the store, looking for Claire's handwriting, photographing, cataloging. It was slow work, but meaningful. Arthur would read the notes and remember. Remember Claire reading that book. Remember her face as she wrote. Remember falling in love with her all over again through her words. One day, Emma found something unusual. A book tucked away on a high shelf. Covered in dust. Untouched for years. It was a poetry collection. Mary Oliver. Inside, Claire had written more than usual. Not just margin notes, but a full letter. On the inside cover, Emma brought it to Arthur. You need to see this. Arthur put on his reading glasses. Read Claire's familiar handwriting, and his breath caught. The note said, My dearest Arthur. If you are reading this, I am gone. I hid this book where you would not find it easily. Because I wanted you to find it when you were ready. When you needed to hear from me one last time. I know you are struggling. I know you want to close the store. To give up. To join me. But please do not. Not yet. This store is our legacy. Our gift to the world. People need places like this. Need books. Need human connection. I wrote notes in thousands of books. Hoping to reach people. To remind them they are not alone. You need to keep that going. Keep the store open. Keep sharing stories. Keep connecting people. That is how I live on. Not in memory, but in action. In the books you sell. In the lives you touch. I love you. Forever. Your Claire. Arthur sat down, crying. Emma sat beside him, hand on his shoulder. They stayed like that for a long time. In the quiet bookstore, surrounded by books, surrounded by Claire's words. I thought she wanted me to close the store, Arthur finally said. I thought keeping it open was selfish, refusing to let go, but she wanted the opposite. She wanted it to continue. She knew you would need permission, Emma said. Permission to keep going, to keep living, to keep creating. That is what this note is. Permission. Arthur looked around the bookstore. At the shelves, at the customers browsing, at Emma, at the life that had returned to this place. You brought this back, he said to Emma. You saved it. No, Emma replied. Claire saved it. I just helped people hear her voice. That night, Arthur stayed late in the store. Alone, he walked the aisles, touched the books, imagined Claire doing the same. 47 years of care, of love, of quiet service. And now, because of Emma's campaign, thousands of people knew. Thousands of people cared. Claire's notes would be preserved, published, shared. Her voice would outlive them all. Arthur pulled out a blank notebook. For 47 years, Claire had written notes for strangers. Now it was his turn. He would continue the tradition, would write his own notes. In new books, keep the conversation going, keep Claire's legacy alive. He wrote his first note in a novel. Just a simple sentence. Books are bridges between souls. May this one connect you to something beautiful. Arthur. He smiled, placed the book on the shelf, and felt, for the first time in 5 years, that Claire was not gone. She was here, in every note, in every book, in every person who found her words and felt less alone. She was here, and she always would be. 6 months later, Morrison's Books was thriving. Not just surviving, thriving. The store had become a destination, a pilgrimage site for book lovers. People came from everywhere to find Claire's notes, to participate in something magical. Emma had created a beautiful website, an archive of Claire's notes, organized by theme: love, loss, forgiveness, joy, hope. People could search, read, share. The notes had touched millions, far more than Claire ever could have imagined. A publisher approached them, wanted to create a book, The Secret Notes of Claire Morrison, Love Letters to Strangers. It became a bestseller. The profits went to literacy programs, just as Claire would have wanted. Arthur was 84 now, healthier than he had been in years. Having purpose again had given him life. He came to the store every day, not to work, just to be, to watch, to witness Claire's legacy growing, spreading, changing lives. Emma had hired staff, young people who loved books, who understood the mission, who wrote their own notes in books. Continuing the tradition, the store had become more than a business. It was a movement, a community, a living testament to the power of small acts of kindness. One day, a woman came in, elderly, maybe 75. She approached Arthur. Mr. Morrison? Yes? The woman held out a book. Worn, clearly read many times. I bought this book from your store in 1985. 40 years ago. I was 25, going through a divorce, broken, lost. I picked up this book randomly. And inside, your wife had written a note. It said, "You are stronger than you know. This ending is not your ending. It is your beginning." The woman was crying. That note saved my life. I read it every day for a year. It gave me strength to rebuild, to keep going. I remarried, had children, built a career I love. And I have carried this book with me ever since. Because your wife's words carried me. She handed the book to Arthur. I wanted to return it, to say thank you, to tell you that her kindness mattered, that she mattered. Arthur held the book. Read Claire's note, written 40 years ago, to a stranger she would never meet. And yet it had changed a life, had created ripples that extended for decades. Thank you for telling me, Arthur said. Claire would be so happy to know. The woman left, but her story stayed. Arthur shared it with Emma, and Emma shared it online. And soon, others came forward. Dozens, then hundreds. People who had found Claire's notes over the years. Who had been touched, changed, saved by a few handwritten words from a bookstore owner who believed in the power of books to heal. Arthur realized Claire had been doing this for 47 years. Writing notes, changing lives, and she had never known, had never seen the results, had never heard the thank yous. She had simply believed it mattered. And she had been right. One evening, as the store was closing, Emma found Arthur in his office. He was writing something. "What are you working on?" "A note," Arthur said. "For whoever buys this store when I am gone." Emma felt her heart sink. "You're thinking about selling?" Arthur smiled. "Not yet, but eventually. I am 84. I will not be here forever. But I want the next owner to understand. This is not just a bookstore. It is a sacred trust. A legacy. A promise to keep connecting people. To keep reminding them they are not alone." Emma sat beside him. "I will make sure they understand." "I know you will," Arthur said. "You already have. You saved this place. You gave Claire's notes the audience she deserved. You gave me purpose again. You gave me hope. Thank you." "I should thank you," Emma said. "I was lost, burned out, empty. And I walked into this store. Found Claire's notes. Found you. Found purpose. You saved me too." They sat together in the quiet bookstore. Surrounded by books. By Claire's notes. By Arthur's new notes. By the notes of the young staff members. By 47 years of quiet kindness now amplified into a movement. Morrison's book still stands today. Arthur passed away at 87. Peacefully. In his sleep. The store held a memorial. Hundreds came. Shared stories of Claire's notes. Of Arthur's kindness. Of how the bookstore had changed their lives. Emma runs the store now. Still writing notes in books. Still connecting people. Still honoring Claire and Arthur's legacy. The store has expanded. Opened branches in other cities. Each one continuing the tradition. Secret notes. Human connection. Books as bridges between souls. And in every store, on the wall, is a photograph. Arthur and Claire, young, in 1978, standing in front of their brand new bookstore. Full of hope, full of dreams. They could not have known then that their small act of kindness would grow into something so large. So lasting, so beautiful. But that is how legacies work. We plant seeds, we care for them, and long after we are gone, they grow. They spread, they bloom. Claire's notes, Arthur's dedication, Emma's vision, they all became part of something larger. Something eternal. Because books are not just paper and ink. They are conversations across time. Bridges between strangers. Reminders that we are all connected. That we are never truly alone. That love, once given, never dies. It just transforms. Into words. Into notes. Into stories. Forever. And somewhere, on a high shelf, in a dusty corner, there is still a book waiting to be found. With a note inside. From a woman who believed in the power of kindness. From a man who believed in legacy. From a store that believed books can change the world. One note, one book, one person, at a time.